What's the biggest lie people believe about supplements?
There's a lot. There's a lot. It doesn't build muscle. It doesn't help with sports recovery. So for the purposes it's being sold for, it's garbage. When Joe turned up, I was driving that big yellow thing.
You look quite good on it, man.
First time?
Yeah,
Was
that's
it?
your
Yeah, first time, yeah. Listen, tradies drive those, so how hard can it be?
What do you think of the proteinization of everything? It's like every food you eat.
It would be fine if they were good.
Yeah.
Right?
So I got my bloods done today. I'm not great with phobias and needles, but Joe just, instead of saying, do you want help or anything, he's like,
I think I actually asked Joe if he wanted to hold your hand.
And I went, actually, what I'll do is talk about neurochemistry.
What do you expect to gain from that? Well, I'll get data. Data about what? Well, when I eat stuff, I'll see how much my blood glucose goes up. That's what your blood glucose is supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's its job.
Speaking about copying, how do you feel about people that are constantly copying your shit?
It's going to happen, isn't it? I don't think there's much we can do about it. There is a point where you're like, oh, come on, guys. I don't think it's,
You
I
can't
don't
spell
think it's
Physique
because you
Collective.
can't afford a better laptop. I think it's because you're one of the tightest rich people I know.
Yeah, I'm extremely frugal.
Yeah. Protein got done very publicly for selling beta-cyclic dextrin instead of cyclic dextrin.
What's the difference?
One of them's animal feed that will give you explosive diarrhea.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Doghouse Chats. However, as is obvious, we're not in the doghouse. We're in an undisclosed secret location that may or may not have been announced by the time that you are watching this. But for all intents and purposes, it's the Physique Collective podcast. You know Jazz, she's been on plenty of times before, but we got two very special guests.
Who's the most
Two
special?
very special needs guests. One more special needs than the other.
I don't know which one that is.
I wouldn't know either, to be fair. I feel we're like on a level par there.
We have different needs.
Yeah, different needs.
Different needs. Timescale-wise, when would this be going out? Is that dependent on him?
Whenever Jake feels like chopping it into real.
Yeah.
So
When Jake has a slow day.
we will probably have announced by the start of next month.
Oh, it'll probably be out by then. Yeah. Okay, maybe not. Well,
We can time it accordingly.
anyway, didn't finish the introductions.
Yeah.
We got Big Daddy Kirkham over here, in place for Matt, who unfortunately both could be here and couldn't be here in quick succession, unfortunately. And we've also got the one and only Rick from Strom. That's his real name.
At this point, I'm starting to think it is. Yeah. There's
From
people that I
middle
train with that only know me as Strom.
Mr. Strom.
Mr. Strom.
Mr. Strom. Yeah, fine.
Mr.
Sir
From
Strom.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. I'm just glad that people have stopped telling me that I've spelt storm wrong. That's taken a good decade to get past. So I'm happy with just being Strom. That's absolutely fine.
Since we've got Rick here and he's not afraid to talk some shit, I want to learn some things about the supplement industry that I was going to say general population, but even just like bodybuilder types would not know or expect on things.
Beef protein is just collagen and doesn't build muscle, and gummies are for children. You should all grow the fuck up.
Triggered.
Is there any place for beef protein?
I mean, collagen. There's certainly a
Do you
use
like
for.
collagen?
There's some really interesting stuff on collagen cross-linking in injury recovery, and there's an argument to be made that actually taking excessive collagen during a traumatic, kind of a muscle tear recovery phase could cause more scar tissue to build up. I think this assumption that it's just always good is perhaps slightly false. But kind of 6 to 10 grams a couple of times a day. Beef protein is made from connective tissue and cartilage, and it's probably the worst type of collagen. A multi-source collagen would be what I would use. If you eat meat in your diet, you're probably getting enough collagen from your diet. Anyway, I don't hate it as a supplement, but it has a DIAA, ASS score of 0. It doesn't build muscle. It doesn't help with sports recovery. So for the purposes it's being sold for, with a serving size of 30 grams, marketed very clearly as a replacement for your whey protein, it's garbage. And we had this discussion in our group chat the other day. Whey protein's fucking fantastic. Yeah. It just has an image problem at the moment, I think, in terms of people go, oh, I don't want to drink a protein shake. They're heavy, they're bloating. I don't think they are. I think a genuine whey protein shake isn't. I think a lot of protein shakes on the market are milk protein now, masquerading as whey protein. But if you get a genuine 80% whey, whey protein concentrate. It's very rare that people have issues
As
with
in
them.
like 80% whey, 20% casein.
80% whey, 20% casein would be perfect. But
Where
the
could
kind
we
of
get
standard
such
designation
where could we get such a product?
Who knows? That's obviously what I deem to be the best. I've actually got something for you to try later, though.
Custard cream's still the OG.
You're wrong, but that's okay.
No.
I like the choc.
Caramel.
No, the white choc.
White chocolate, yeah.
Yeah, in a core. I haven't. I said to Jazz the other day, I was like, do you know what? I haven't eaten whey protein in months. Just don't know why. I was like, I need to get some in.
I think when I started training, which was a long time ago, admittedly, same as Big Daddy, it was kind of an assumption if you were to bodybuild that your diet was really bland, right? I would eat chicken and rice and broccoli, and I would eat lean mince and rice and broccoli or baked potato or whatever. So that kind of 50 grams of vanilla whey protein post-workout was something you genuinely really looked forward to. Whereas now people have found so many ways to incorporate whatever it is that they fancy into their diet that whey protein is no longer quite as appealing as it used to be.
Yeah, when I used to do RFL models, and my diet would be like meal 1, 300 chicken, 250 gram broccoli, I would have a whey sludge post-training.
Yeah.
And it would be like cheesecake to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd look forward to that more than I'd look forward to anything. I think like just some whey and some water that I'd like poured out the kettle.
Yeah, I was told the other day by Tariq, actually, some of you might know, that I'm just old and grumpy. But I think that I see an awful lot of the industry has become pussified.
Yes.
The pussification of the fitness industry. And it was pointed out to me that's because I'm being upset that the fitness industry is the way it's always been, because actually what I'm interested in is the bodybuilding and powerlifting industry.
Yeah.
And they're different things, right?
Yeah.
Bodybuilding, powerlifting, the hardcore side of people is a very different market to Sandra who wants to keep fit, but they've kind of merged together.
What do you think of the proteinization of everything? It's like every food you eat
It would be
has to go
fine
for-
if they were good,
Yeah.
right?
So Aldi's ones aren't the one.
Like I saw one the other day and it was a protein yogurt. I'm sure it was a yogurt, and it had 2 grams more protein than the normal yogurt.
Yeah.
Yogurt is,
You know?
a protein.
You seen the
Protein
Crisps?
pancakes, they're made
Yeah.
from eggs and flour. Fuck off.
Have you seen the protein crisps going around?
I haven't seen the protein crisps.
Yeah.
To be fair,
I think if we're taking something normal and we're adding 30 grams or so of a animal sourced, ideally, or at least a good bioavailable form of protein, I don't have a massive issue with it. But what you tend to find with these things is that they're often massively more calorie dense, they're massively more processed, and the type of protein that's added is quite often like a collagen protein or a soy protein, which I don't have a huge issue with soy protein actually, but at an amount that's only marginally higher than the regular version anyway.
we had some protein crisps in the States when we were staying at Dr. Mike's. He had like, you'd walk in his front door, and on the left-hand side, there was crates of
Ridiculous.
protein crisps, protein bars, protein shakes. It was like a protein bonanza.
Yeah.
But we had the crisps, and was it each packet was 24 grams of
I
protein?
think
Were
so.
they, are they the egg white ones?
I don't know what they were, but
I've seen an egg white one, and that again, it's a good source of protein that doesn't denature when it's cooked. And if it is what I think it is, 24 grams a pack,
Yeah.
fine, no problem with that at all.
Yeah,
no
they're
issue
nice.
with that whatsoever. When I saw protein Weetabix, it's got 4 grams more
Oh,
protein,
yeah.
and it's wheat protein, which is glutamine peptides.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. This is like two companies that are both very close with Physique Collective. Let's ask Rick's opinion on something.
Right.
So, as you have seen, the RP guys have released those Genuis Shots. And when we went to the States, they weren't released, but
Yeah.
Mike was giving them to us, wanted our opinion
Yeah.
on them, so he had those dotted all over his
I didn't
house.
realise that was his
They're,
company, by the way.
That's one of the first things he said to us when we walked through the door and gave us to him. He said, "Can you please try this because they're coming out soon?
Yeah.
We'd like your opinion." So little, for anybody that hasn't seen them, these Genuis Shots are like little bottles of I can't remember what version of
It's a new
protein
type
it
of
is.
protein, right? It's
Yeah.
a beta lactamin protein or
Lactobellin
something like that.
Yeah. I will say, try both the flavors, and you remember Yop?
Yeah.
The first thing I said is it tastes like Yop.
Yeah.
So I saw them and obviously initially went, fucking pussification of the fitness industry. I hate this. I assumed it was a collagen-based thing, maybe a collagen with a BCAA, but it's a whey-based protein shot that's delactose, desugared, defatted. There's some science behind it that I haven't done the reading on yet, but looks fairly legit. So I don't have. It probably looks quite good. It's probably the kind of thing that I would have if I had them
Travelling.
here. Yeah,
Well,
great
for
travel
travel,
and
they're
stuff
so
like
good
that.
because you can go through security with them.
The difficulty is marketing something like that against 30 grams of protein, collagen shots and stuff that will cost someone 30p to make, that they can spend millions on marketing. And this is the issue we've got as a supplement industry. I assume that Mike is making a very small margin on those because they'll be expensive to make, and the packaging and everything else. And he's going to be competing with absolute trash that will have a big margin and a big marketing budget. But I'd certainly be keen to try them. I'd like a little bit more information on the whey. It's like a whey extract.
Yeah,
from what I read it.
According to according to what I think Mike was telling me, it's just got an enhanced leucine profile as compared to other whey sources. But I loved them because, like, he gave us a load to take away with us. We're on the road for hours driving to the next hotel, no cooking facilities. I'd just buy like a bunch of fruit and slam 2 of those. And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I've got 50 odd grams of protein and some fruit, easy peasy, as compared to having to buy some dry chicken breast or some shit Fairlife.
But you can always get carbs and fats, right?
Yeah.
They're the easy thing to get on the road. Getting a good bioavailable source of protein is tricky.
In a tiny thing. I mean, they're not satiating.
Yeah.
But that's not really the point, is it?
Yeah.
You know, if you're just trying to get, okay, cool.
I have a question. What's the biggest lie people believe about supplements?
It's a proper chat GPT question, that.
Is
There's a lot. So here's the thing, right? We used to think that loading creatine was pointless. Sorry, we used to think that loading creatine was a thing, and then it became that it was pointless, and that there's no need to take any more than 5 grams. And there's more and more information coming out now that actually you probably could load with it, and you probably could take quite a bit more than 5 grams.
Yeah, about 1 gram per kilo on the neurological side.
There's loads of really interesting stuff that's coming out. I mean, I was
not 1 gram per kilo, sorry.
I've seen figures as high as 25 grams.
10 grams, no. What am I saying? 0.1 grams per kilo, am I trying to say? Yeah.
0.1 grams per kilo, so do maths.
So if you're 100
gram
kilo,
per 10
like 10
kilo.
grams.
Yeah, 10 grams.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a study done on tiredness and fatigue and kind of 25 gram boom dosing. But that's not very exciting, is it? Things people believe. I don't know.
I find it interesting at the moment that, like, supplements that you talk about, I'm starting to slowly see them, like, in the mainstream. Like, M&S have brought out this thing where it's like lion's mane, ashwagandha, like, shot, and I'm like,
we did.
It's on, like, in between your stories being advertised all the time.
We did neuro with lion's mane. We were the first people, I think, in the UK to use lion's mane. And that was, 8 years ago now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And stuff does trickle through into the mainstream. I think we've done a good job of that. I know one that likes to trigger people, and we go back and forth on this, and I don't know what Joe's opinion is because I've never asked him. But anabolic window. I personally think that there is probably enough data around having a big bolus of protein immediately post-workout that it's not going to hurt, and there might be a benefit that I would still do it if I was trying to achieve hypertrophy.
Okay, do you want my opinion?
I do, yeah, because I suspect it's different to mine.
So when we're talking about what protein is going to do for us in that setting, we're talking about offsetting muscle protein breakdown and or increasing net muscle protein synthesis per unit of time. So protein turnover over each 24 hours, we want to bias protein synthesis, skeletal muscle protein synthesis, and negate muscle protein breakdown where possible. We also know from the protein overfeeding data that window of time that muscle protein synthesis is escalated post-meal is dependent on the size of the bolus of the protein. You know, if you eat 120 grams of protein, that bolus is going to sufficiently escalate muscle protein synthesis for a very, very long time. So the conditions would have to be met correctly pre-workout if you were not going to consume a bolus of protein within a certain amount of time post-workout. But generally speaking, the data goes... I probably wouldn't go as far to say 1 meal a day because we've only really got one paper looking at that kind of thing. Like if you're eating 2 meals a day and getting in your dietary protein amount, I doubt there's going to be a statistically significant change on protein synthesis. But what there is data to support is that insufficient post-workout carbohydrate feeding negatively...
replenishment, sports performance.
Yeah, negatively impacts performance on the days to follow.
Yeah, that's valid.
So that's where I'd go with that. I'd probably worry more about the carbohydrate feeding than I would the protein, assuming that this individual is going to eat some protein at some point.
Yeah, a couple of times a day.
Who's not eating 3, 4, 5 times a day?
Weirdos doing intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Also, what if you did intra-carbs while you're training? Would that
So
carb
I've
be
always said
as
that you want to either
essential?
do intra or immediately post-workout, and I think that comes down to your gastric tolerance.
Yeah.
You know, if I have intra-carbs beyond about 25 grams, I find myself being quite refluxy. And when I were bigger and training harder, I maybe want 100 grams of carbs. So I couldn't do all that intra-carb. But if you can tolerate it, I think intra-carbs is probably as good, if not superior, and allows you to then jump onto your normal feeding schedule post-workout. A bit of a pivot, just because I've got Joe talking about interesting things, and I got rage baited by Tariq today. Wearable blood glucose monitors for non-diabetics.
No, I think wearables. I've got a bigger problem because we were talking a little bit about like fear responses, or we were talking about it.
When you say we were talking about it, do you mean when
I
your
mean,
girlfriend was
I was-
scared
I
and
was
you
having-
said, don't hold her hand and she won't learn?
I was having one of my autistic outbursts about something I've learned.
Yeah, no, it was
This is the
great.
perfect opportunity to ramble about this.
So, right, so basically, guys, I got my bloods done today. I'm not great with phobias and needles and
Good
that.
job, you had an excellent clinician.
Yeah, but Joe just, instead of saying, you know, do you want help or anything, he's like,
I
"Do you
think
know
I
what?
actually asked Joe if he wanted to hold your
Yeah.
hand.
And I went, actually, what I'll do is talk about neurochemistry.
So, yeah,
Yeah, holding your hand is the worst thing we can do right now.
it was great.
Anyway, so my point here is that I think that I think we are going to have a problem of rumination on about inputs that don't have a
Relevance.
relevance or a robust enough impact to actually mean anything, but
Seen
you're
people recording
constantly
their body temperature recently.
right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when they wake
you
up, that's my
rumin-
body temperature. Brilliant.
I think people worry. Rumination is essentially worry, isn't it? They worry about this thing, and that lights up the amygdala, which generates that sympathetic fear response. And the more that you do that, the more you condition your fear response to certain things over and over again. That's literally what neuroplasticity is. You build neural pathways to be nervous about things.
I mean, the person that I was with today, smart guy, but not nutritionally. And the conversation was, but what do you expect to gain from that? Well, I'll get data. Data about what? Well, you know, when I eat stuff, I'll see how much my blood glucose goes up. That's what your blood glucose is supposed to do. That's
Yeah.
its job.
And what you're going to do?
What are you going to do with that information?
Yeah.
Is it, oh, well, actually, since I've been wearing it, I've lost more weight because I'm more aware of the effect that things have on me. It's like, so
Because you're
you've
eating less.
reduced your net caloric intake. Well, yeah, maybe, because you've switched out from eating sugars to eating more complex carbs. He felt because he'd switched out from eating sugars to eating more complex carbs, that's why his weight loss had escalated. And I pointed out that actually your volume of calories, just the amount of food you're eating, will probably reduce.
Yeah, this
because it's
goes-
easier to overeat, right?
goes
Yeah.
further than this, doesn't it? You know, do you remember when I won't name the coach when the flavor of the month coach at the time was saying like, don't eat unless your blood glucose is under this number.
I don't actually know who that was.
I'll tell you afterwards. I probably shouldn't say because I'll get a barrage
Let's
on
not.
social media. He's one of those people.
Just blank that one
You
out,
know,
Jay.
I
it's,
thought it was you, to be honest.
definitely wasn't me. And he'd be like, right, take a couple units of insulin if it isn't below this and blah, blah, blah. You know, no, I'd say him. Tom Hames. It's not, it wasn't Tom Hames. I love you, Tom. No, it wasn't Tom. Tom's never done that. I don't think Tom would ever give a fuck about things like that because there's no point. Like I say, if you're not diabetic and you're not insulin dependent, honestly,
I've
don't
no problem with
worry.
gathering data. I mean, we've all done it. It's just, what are we gathering this data for? What
Tell
are we
what the
gonna do
problem
with it?
is. You can't monitor your blood insulin.
Yeah, which would be
blood-
far more useful.
Yeah, blood glucose in absence of blood insulin, you need both sides of the equation to have any assessment of insulin sensitivity. So like if you've got ragingly high blood glucose but really low blood insulin,
It's a problem.
No, that could be fine.
Okay, so
Well, I mean, how high? If we have really high
Well,
blood
I'm
glucose
just
and really
ruling
low
that
blood insulin, then we go blind, and that's not great.
Yeah, well, I mean, like if you've got either side of the axes taking care of whatever, like if you're hyperinsulinemic
Yeah.
and really low blood glucose, like some people are,
I speak
you put
to more
that
people.
into a
I speak to a lot of people. This is it's not a common myth, but it's a thing that happens, right? People who are going hypo because they're in incredible shape, they're super insulin sensitive. They go hypo and then they say, I think I'm diabetic because I keep going hypo. It's like, no, you're as far opposite diabetic as you. I had a conversation with someone last week and they couldn't get their head around what I was saying. Like if you're going hypo naturally while eating foods, you are as insulin sensitive as you can be. That's the opposite of diabetes.
Yeah.
But people convince themselves. I mean, this was another person that was wearing a monitor because they were convinced that they'd become diabetic.
I should definitely not ever wear one. We had Chris Faulkner staying with us recently, didn't we? And he's seen the blood glucose monitor on the side. I don't use it. He was like, I haven't checked this in ages. Let me have a go on this. And it was like 4.6. I was like, hey, that's pretty good. He was like, oh, what's yours at? And I did it. It was like 3.2.
Yeah, mine sits
like,
really low.
He was like, oh, you must
For a fatty,
you must
so-
feel that. I'm like, yeah, I feel like shit all the time, bro. Like, could be this or a million other things.
There's a guy I roll with who's a type 1 diabetic. So he wears a monitor and then he tapes it so it doesn't come off. And he has to time his insulin and his food specifically for because by the end of an hour's sparring, you can see him start to deflate.
Give him that
so in
Performax.
that scenario, super useful information, right?
Yeah, but in the
general
population,
yeah.
your pancreas works fine.
And a lot of the marketing I see now seems to be geared towards using it as a tool to improve sports performance.
Okay, so you've just been talking about how like people using monitors, over analyzing things. Is there certain supplements that you find some bodybuilders, advanced lifters focus so much on, too much, when actually they should be focusing on something else?
Here's the thing, right? 8 years ago, 10 years ago, I was the one saying we should all be taking on cycle support, and we've done a really good job of people starting to take that stuff. Not just me, lots and lots of other people. From the Crosslands to the American dudes to the man that's angry at everybody, to people like Joe. The man that
I've had a great one from him this week.
Yeah.
He's calling me the musician now. I quite like that name.
Well, you are a musician when I met you, so that makes sense.
But we, as a community, we've done a pretty good job of raising the awareness of harm reduction. There's a whole bigger conversation to be had that I'd love to have one day about, we talked about having it at one of your Physique Collective, by showing people how to monitor their blood work and monitor their health markers, are we actually increasing the amount of people that are using in general and therefore increasing the total volume of harm done? Different conversation. But what I see now is a lot of people going the other way, and they will take a heart stack, a liver stack, they'll take 40 or 50 supplements a day or pills a day when their blood work's all fine.
Yeah.
Now, not that that's necessarily a problem, but it's probably a little bit unnecessary and probably not super productive.
Yeah. What I've found to be like a newer thing with the supplement world is like I get loads of consultations booked from bodybuilders that want to take really robust nootropics protocols. It's like it
And
feels
that
like
term's so misused, right?
Yeah, and like because admittedly I've put so much stuff out on nootropics and stuff, and like admittedly I don't even take any.
Yeah.
Like because there's very few nootropics
I used
that
to mess
have
about with Selank.
Selank. So I still use that.
Anthracetam.
I've used that today. Aniracetam.
Yeah, you know, I don't know how to pronounce anything.
All
I can't
the
pronounce anything because I
racetams.
just know it from reading on forums, and I kind of, when you like, I've got a picture in my head of how Dobby looks from the first time I read Harry Potter, and it's nothing like what Dobby looks like. But in my head, that's all I see, and I'm the same with words.
Well, the thing is that the two that you've mentioned there actually have some
They're actually
some
nootropics.
data.
They're actually what people think nootropics now are stimulants.
Yeah,
Or
that's what I was going
lion's
on to.
mane. That's not a nootropic at all. It increases brain nerve factor growth and neuron growth and
that's
various
what I would
things.
consider a nootropic, like BDNF production or NGF production
but that's
or
kind of a
antioxidant.
subtle nootropic, right? That's you know, after a few months of using it, you might see an improvement in short-term recall. You might see an improvement in brain health long-term. You're not going to take lion's mane and suddenly become the guy from Limitless.
No, I've seen the term neurogenics slipped around to things like that.
Yeah.
Because I think people do categorize nootropic as something that's going to stim you out. So neurogenic, I guess that would imply that it's growing something in your brain. But I do think there's use cases for things like Selank and Samax and maybe Fasaracetam and things like that. But for the most part, there's not a lot going that's going to have a robust... I mean, let's be honest. It's not going to work like modafinil or Adderall or caffeine.
Yeah. And anything that does have that up has a...
It's going to be a cost.
Almost exclusively. Yeah, there's I struggle with modafinil.
I hate it, man. I think it's like a... I don't use it for ages, then I forget why I don't like it, and then I use it and regret it.
I'll have a great day, and then the next day I do nothing.
No, I have a terrible day. I just like end
I
up
feel like you're looking at stuff.
anxious.
I am. I'm the person behind.
Jazz keeps this in control. No,
Right.
sorry.
Go on.
Go on then.
No, I think Ryan should ask the question.
Don't ask me what I'm doing.
We all know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I can't talk about what I'm
He's
doing.
just sorting out some supplement.
I've just got some,
He's on
Some online coaching.
Just
No.
got some clients.
He's just
that-
online coaching.
just got some clients that are being aggro.
I thought you were on crypto, but it's fine. It's fine.
Crypto.
Being aggro.
Yeah.
Okay, another question for you, ready? No, you can't look there. It's like,
What, because I'll spoil the surprise?
yeah. What's the latest innovation in sports nutrition that excites you the most?
That's actually innovative.
Yeah.
So
Nothing.
just like drugs,
Egg white protein.
just like drugs,
Protein crisps.
everything's been done and it cycles around in trends. I'm
Yeah. That's
waiting.
so true.
I'm waiting for desiccated liver tablets to come back, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Like we did a big thing with MSM last year and we did a load of education around it and it's a good supplement. But I didn't like people say that was so innovative to do MSM. I was using that shit in the 90s in tablets, well, not the 90s, the early 2000s that I bought from Holland & Barrett. Like, it's not new. It's just people forget about stuff. And I think it's the same with drugs, same with supplements. There are some interesting things going on with improving the bioavailability of things that have traditionally had poor bioavailability. I find stuff like this SLU, which is not really supplements, interesting. If you look at the type of compound that is, it doesn't instantly strike me as something you would want to take as a physique athlete.
We've got a big video coming
that?
out on that this week.
It's an estrogen agonist, right?
I think it's an estrogen receptor beta agonist.
Yeah. That doesn't strike
That may
me.
or may not mean that it activates the receptor and transcribes estrogenic effects.
I think. So I had this conversation with someone the other day. 10 years ago, I did a lot of stuff before a lot of people.
Yeah.
By kind of going, that's exciting. I want to talk about it. And I would say I was really lucky. 80% of the shit I talked about worked out to be a good thing. And I've got to the point now where I've become a bit jaded and I kind of dismiss everything until the evidence proves otherwise, which probably means I'm going to be a little bit behind on some things. So I'm sure some of these new things coming through will be really, really good. The legislation around supplements in Europe is so restrictive that anything that is truly new that gets developed now is automatically not authorized for sale within the EU, which is a problem for innovation within the industry. So it's kind of digging through the history books and finding new things to use, that kind of stuff.
Is that changed because of the UK isn't in the EU?
You would think so, but no.
Oh,
No, we just
okay.
copy what they do.
Speaking about copying, how do you feel about people that are constantly copying your shit?
It's going to happen, isn't it? You know, I don't think there's much we can do about it.
Highest form of flattery.
There is a point where you're like, oh, come on, guys.
Thing is, though, you look at the profiles on their supplements, and it's like a shit version of.
Often because of margin, right? There are a couple of brands coming through that are genuinely trying to be innovative. I'll name them: Engineered Muscle, Nice Guy, Riz. I sometimes think I sometimes think the more experienced you are, the less open to new ways of doing things you are, because you're like, well, that's the way it's always been done. So Riz recently, all of his products are unflavored, and then he's brought out like a flavor system that's got some uptake enhancers and a very like an electrolyte complex in there. Is it the way I would do things? Obviously, it's not, because we've never done it that way. But I like that he's thinking outside the box. So maybe there'll be something come from those guys that's worth looking at. A lot of the time, what I'm seeing at the moment are people getting three things that exist and putting them together and calling that innovation, that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I sound like such a grumpy prick today.
It's all right.
It's been a stressful
Grumpy
few
old man
weeks.
of the-
You had to deal with me with the blood, so you're probably just like, God, I'm done with this.
I'm very grey now as well. Very grey.
Tell you something I've been thinking about. This may or may not be interesting. Something my brain was pondering on, just because I've seen the KSM 66 thing there, is something that I've seen similar to what we were talking about with the wearables and that worry and fear response, is people using supplements that are sort of classically GABAergic, you could say, like KSM 66, L-theanine, Relora, maybe NMDA antagonists like agmatine or magnesium, and using them because they're struggling with like sleep or anxiety or stress. And then I think that becomes a coping strategy. And then when they remove it, even if purely from a chemistry standpoint, there's no rebound like there would be with a GABA agonist. There's floods of things on Reddit like withdrawals from ashwagandha, rebound anxiety from this. Like,
it's definitely a thing.
Stopped using
Potentially
L-theanine.
because you've never addressed the underlying issue,
Yeah,
right?
I think if you look at like REBT or CBT, which follows on from my, all this therapy stuff, is like one of the things built into exposure and response prevention is the response prevention, which
And that's
would
why
be
you should never hold a scared person's hand.
I was just
well.
about to say.
Exactly.
But if
So
you're trying to work around to justifying your behaviour earlier, I think you're better off just buying a
I
dinner
think the
later.
point is probably more so if people are supplementing with these things to try avoid feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
That's going to be a bigger problem down the road because you tell your amygdala feeling this way is bad. I take this thing, the bad feeling go away.
Yeah.
When I stop taking this thing, the bad feeling come back.
I mean, there's a
Yeah.
whole bigger conversation here about the society we live in. When people talk about being depressed, really off topic, really deep conversation potentially. But if you're depressed because your dad has died, you're not depressed, you're sad because a thing has happened. You're supposed to feel sad because the thing has happened. And I think we get confused about a lot of these terms. Like we think that we're not supposed to feel anything
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
in
a good
response
point.
to things.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read much like Tibetan Buddhism.
I've read
stuff.
zero Tibetan Buddhist.
Right, Mr. Strong is the guy that would be reading.
I went through a
Buddhist.
couple of months of doing like 5 books a week, didn't I?
Came back from Bali,
Of, like,
started reading the stuff.
Buddhist books, and one of the things
I read
that's-
what do they call it? It's like a comic, but there's a bit more writing than a comic.
What?
Like a graphic novel. I read a graphic novel the other day about a train that goes around the world after the apocalypse.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
But to the
We're
point,
not the same, is my point.
yeah. One thing that they do well is, and the whole practice of mindfulness is not to change the way you feel, but just to be okay with whatever you feel. So if you are depressed, just allowing yourself with, well, Dr. Claire Weeks calls it floating with it. Like just living normally, but feeling that way anyway, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just being okay with however you feel. People do use these supplements, and it's why people use recreational drugs and shit. They don't want to feel the way they feel.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was any point to that. I just thought it was an interesting thing that I was thinking about.
Well, no, but AI will chop it up into a useful bit of content. Yeah. I've got depression because this awful thing happened in my life. That sounds like the correct response to that situation. I'm really sorry. And I'm sorry you feel that way, but I also don't think there's something wrong with you. I think that's the way you're supposed to respond to things.
What's been like the most difficult part of having your business with Strom?
There you go, bought it right on.
Fuck me.
Back
There you go.
back on point like that.
I
Very
was told
corporate.
yesterday by the team that I think I work really well with that I'm not good at working with a team and that I'm terrible at managing people.
Managing's hard, man. Don't care what anyone says. It's I think it's one of the hardest things.
They say that because, look, they're like a little gang. They're all friends.
Yeah.
And then I'll come in and be like, why are you guys doing fuck all? And then I'm bad at managing people. They could just be doing stuff, and then I wouldn't. Every now and again, I'll go, "Rah." It's my fault because we have you've been here enough times. We have
You're very family oriented. It's like a family feel.
It's not like a normal workplace.
Yeah.
You know, we're not like checking on time cards and stuff. But every now and again, I'll go, hang on, I'm paying all you guys.
Yeah.
We've been sat here for 3 hours and we've just been chatting shit.
We have the opposite problem at Physique Collective. Everyone does stuff. We'll get on a meeting, like planning out all this content, and I'll be like, have you guys heard about the amygdala?
Yeah, then Joe just has got a great idea.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
oh, dear.
Yeah, I think we have a similar thing because I've now got like a Strom. We've got Strom Ireland, Strom Australia,
Yeah,
Strom
sorry.
New Zealand, Strom USA. So we have like a Strom global group chat, and I very much do what Joe does, and everyone's like, can we talk about the business?
Yeah, but I don't actually do any work as well.
Same, yeah.
You
I
both
just
work.
spend all my day learning about
I
neuroplasticity.
don't think I work.
Okay.
I do work when I'm doing
When Joe
check-ins.
turned up, I was driving that big yellow thing.
Yeah, that's true. You look quite good on it, man.
First time.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Was
that's
it?
your
Yeah,
colour.
first time, yeah. Listen, tradies drive those, so how hard can it be?
Some of the best paid people in the country at the minute there.
They are now, yeah.
Something else that you've like said before to me, which I found quite interesting, is like there's certain products. Yeah, you say some interesting stuff. Is like some products actually like they're people perceive, oh, that's expensive or that's cheap, but actually don't understand. I think people assume that you can sell something for 100 quid and you're taking home 100 quid, but
Oh,
they don't
100%.
actually understand like the profit margin, sometimes how small it is.
And I'm sure you have that with Compact.
Oh,
right?
100%.
I won't divulge numbers in
No.
terms of what I make, but as a business, we operate at between a 10 and 12% profit margin,
Yeah. People don't realise that.
which is okay, right?
You look at what clothing companies are working with.
Right.
and
Yeah. You know, people selling T-shirts for 50 quid are paying 4 quid for them.
Yeah.
You know, we've got staff to pay. We have to pay VAT. We have to pay corporation tax. We have to pay business rates. We have to pay rent. So, And I've had it literally this week with some online coach. And if you listen to this, yes,
It's for you.
this is for you. And yes, I do think that you're very naive.
We can't get the name and shame.
No, I'm not going to, because he means well. But he's basically had a product quoted up, and he's like, well, it costs this much, and I could sell it for this much, so I'll double my money. And that's the perception that that's all that's involved in business. And you know what? If you're selling stuff in your bedroom, maybe it is. But the bigger you get, the more the overheads are there. And obviously, you can get away with making a smaller margin overall because the scale of the business is so much bigger. But you're absolutely right. It's I speak to some of my friends who are very successful online coaches, you know, some of the guys in your circle, and there's potentially more money to be made with less risk, particularly if you're good, right? You know, you can do that job from anywhere in the world, from a laptop.
Yeah.
Oh, I always say online coaching is the most ridiculously
If you're good at it, right?
overpaid, easy job in the world. People and online coaches won't
And
say
this
that.
isn't me, you know, like
No.
I'm very fortunate in the position I am, and I've done very well out of things. But
That's ridiculous.
we have premises and staff,
Yeah.
and all of these things, and all these things to juggle, and all this stock to carry.
Yeah, I've had the
And,
same Mac for the past 9 years.
The P
I
doesn't.
believe you. I believe you. None of the other online coaches have, Joe.
No, Rick, what's funny is
I'm doing
his,
all right.
his P doesn't work on his laptop.
Neither
and
does my
his-
L now. My L's broken.
I don't think it's.
He
I
can't
don't
spell
think it's
Physique
because you
Collective.
can't afford a better laptop. I think it's because you're one of the tightest rich people I know.
Yeah, I'm extremely frugal.
Frugal
It-
as fuck.
It will be absolutely hopeless before I. Thing is, it's just a vessel that I plug it into like the external monitor and stuff.
Yeah.
But then every time I travel, I'm like, fuck's sake, I have to keep copy and pasting this P.
Well, I took your laptop to try and do some
You
work.
copy and paste your P's.
Yeah, because it doesn't work.
I couldn't spell Physique Collective. I had to really work it. I was like, what is
The
going
L's
on?
broke now as well. The L broke.
So,
Maybe
Physique.
it's time.
How
Not
would you
good
do
for Physique Collective.
So it'd be Physique. I'm dyslexic. Elective.
Maybe it's time
Collective.
to make him get a new laptop.
I'm
Do you know what? I
trying.
spend money on Jazz. I buy Jazz nice stuff all the time. You see a brand new car.
I didn't
Got a
ask for the car.
Rolex.
I didn't ask for the Rolex. No,
Yeah, I'm
people
just
know
nice.
You
how-
didn't say no, though, did you?
It was a birthday present.
Jazz, don't I see my card banging off
It's
notifications all day? Amazon 60 quid, Amazon 120 quid, Amazon. And I think, and what is it? Oh, I just bought some fucking
I'm telling you, bro.
sugar-free
Women have it on
sweetener.
easy mode. That's me cancelled, isn't it? That's it. That's the end.
Easy mode. What do you mean?
Easy mode.
What's easy
Yeah.
mode?
If I could make 50 grand a month by getting my snatch out, I absolutely would.
Hey, what did you message me this morning? Can you top up my Monzo, please? Didn't even think twice. It was there in 30 seconds. Imagine if I could text someone.
Obviously, you don't do that. And it's no disrespect to the women who do, but I'm extremely jealous that that's an option.
Yeah. Imagine
You know?
if you could just text someone. Hey, mate, can you top up my Monzo, please?
I'll try it with you.
I might do it.
What's Monzo?
Well, it's like
It's a bank.
Oh, they're,
Oh, okay.
they're banks, they're shit.
I genuinely didn't know.
Monzo's good, man.
They hated me. They
I
shut
like
my
Revolut.
account down.
Of course they did.
Revolut. I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Revolut
Your
have
Monzo
been
was
impressed.
topped up
Revolut
too
are
frequently.
Giving, Revolut are giving interest on business savings, which is really useful.
Oh, yeah.
So we've transferred all of our capital to there, and they pay it daily.
I quite like
pretty
my Monzo. I've got metal for Physique Collective and
No,
Monzo.
Nice.
no bank likes me.
No.
Cash is king for Big Daddy, yeah.
It's no bank. And, I mean, talking of like when you were saying about stock and all that kind of thing, obviously my specialist coaching I offer.
Yes.
It's,
Honestly, it's just
do you know what?
The only coach in the world that has to
furious.
stock items.
it's when someone comes to you and says, "Can you do discount, mate?" What the fuck? Like, I'm sorry.
No, it's not. That's not the kind of business we're operating.
No, like,
Code Buddy doesn't work,
For
no.
straight away, right? As soon as your payment goes into my account, I've lost 20% to the
Yeah.
tax man.
Yeah.
Right, and now you're asking for discount. So I give you discount. I'm potentially in negative fucking.
Yeah.
It's cost me money to give you that discount.
Someone we both know sent me a thing the other day. They got sent I won't name the brand, but they got sent a parcel by a jiu-jitsu clothing brand, and it came with a protein bar and a note saying, "Oh, this is a brand that we really like. If you use this code, you'll get 40% off."
40.
40. And this guy messaged me, was like, "Hey, why don't you do like 40% off code?" With I was like, "Because I
lose the
literally
money,
lose
wouldn't
money."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like when I say we operate at a profit margin of about 11%, that's not a joke. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes you wonder what is in that product.
That's what annoys me as well. Is like my coaching. You could essentially say it's that good, it's illegal. So, like, why the fuck? You know, you can't go down Tesco's and get this sort of coaching.
Honestly,
You can't email Physique Collective for this kind of coaching.
Honestly,
Yeah.
if I get cancelled before him, I'm going to be absolutely furious.
Going back to the topic, how easy is it for supplement brands to cut corners without us realising?
Don't know, Big Daddy.
So-
how easy is it for?
If they
No,
want
it's not. If you want to keep your reputation,
yeah. If you want to
Do
do
not.
it, if you want to do it, it's quite hard to do it innocently. You would
Okay.
have to intend to cut corners.
But I guess
Assuming
bodybuilding.
you're using a legitimate manufacturer and stuff.
I
I've
suppose
known
it's
brands-
more about if the manufacturer sent you the wrong supplement,
I guess.
essentially.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
could fuck you up.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
especially if you're
you're
female.
dealing with
Yeah.
really specialist things.
Yeah.
Or with the consumers actually like knowledgeable, because some people wouldn't even like blink an eye and go, "Oh, okay." Not
Well, amino
realised.
spiking and stuff like that was a thing.
Used to be a thing, yeah. It's less of a thing now.
Optimum Nutrition got done for that, didn't they? Years ago. Yeah.
Protein got done very publicly for selling beta cyclic dextrin instead of cyclic dextrin.
What's the difference?
One of them's animal feed that will give you explosive diarrhea.
Oh my god!
Do you know what that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was Matt Tofton and Jordan Peters both very publicly had issues.
You
with
send
it.
my protein?
Yeah, yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. I was only reminded because a company in the Southern Hemisphere recently did a beta cyclic dextrin, and I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, bro, I know that we're not friends, but I've seen you release this product. I don't know if you're aware, but that ingredient is not fit for human consumption." And I got a barrage of abuse, and then they withdrew the product.
Oh,
They listen though. Yeah.
They listened, yeah. They're like, you're a fucking douche.
Yeah. But thank you.
But yeah, I think if you nefariously wanted to include things you shouldn't or pull the wool over eyes, you could. There are things that we've talked about at your seminar that people do in terms of the way they label things to make it misleading to the public.
yeah.
We don't see a lot of that because our consumer base, often a lot of the same kind of people that are buying from you guys or are involved with you guys, they understand what they're looking for.
Yeah.
What I often think about Strom, although you still seem to be able to do it, is like, unlike a lot of supplement companies where business is generated off like new product, like big new product launch, we've got this like cool new thing. Whereas I always think with you is like, you wouldn't ever need to release another product. I feel like you've got everything. But
I've
then,
had this conversation a lot recently because I've got a reputation for being innovative. And other than an Amiga, which we still need, and I can't bring myself
I
to do one that
agree.
isn't exciting. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to do it, I want it to be good.
that wouldn't taste very good, would it? Fish oil gummy.
With black seed oil.
They basically are gummies if you chew them.
If you are a bodybuilder, or we have all of the tools you need for your toolbox, right? Everything that you need, we've got. And I don't want to release stuff just for the sake of it. And the way I often feel about new drugs that are coming to the market is I talk about drugs and supplements interchangeably because if you look at the definition of a drug, it's a thing that brings about a physiological change, right? SLU is a really good example. Might help with fat loss, might help with metabolic syndrome, might help with a couple of other things. I'll be interested to watch the video you do on it. But the analogy I use is this. If we talk about cars, I like to talk about cars. And, if we think of SLU as a fat loss tool, let's talk about it as if it were a tool to change a wheel on a car. This might be a better, more efficient way of changing a wheel on a car, but I don't know everything about how it works, and I don't understand the mechanisms involved. And I've already got loads of tools to change the wheel on a car that I know exactly how they work and exactly how to utilize them and exactly what to do if they go wrong. And that's kind of how I feel about some of the new stuff coming through. It's not that I have a problem with it, it's that I don't understand it well enough to lean into it yet.
Trying to think what I'd like from Strom. Omega,
We need to do an Amiga.
a lithium, copper. would be
Copper we
good.
can do. Lithium is novel,
What
which
does
means
that
we
mean?
can't. It means we're not supposed to do it.
I'll buy it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can buy BPC on Amazon.
Can you?
But I definitely can't sell it. I wish I
Copper
could.
would be good because I think a lot of people buying your products buy the whole range,
Yeah.
and then they're using a shitload of zinc.
Yes, yeah.
Probably not
and
getting a lot
zinc
of
can
copper in
cause
their
copper
diet.
deficiency.
Yeah.
You only need a little tiny bit of copper, right?
Yeah,
2,
like a
3
milligram.
milligrams. Yeah.
Even a milligram.
Yeah.
If you got like I say a high copper diet. A lot.
It's fun.
Bodybuilders
Copper's one of those
will
things where
do.
you've got to be real careful not to overdo.
Yeah.
So there is a brand.
I'd be more cautious to say base it on blood work, but it's so hard to get copper
Well,
or zinc or magnesium.
we need to do a bespoke panel specifically for what you want.
Yeah, because I know I sent through some of those markers. Like those are the kind of things that I think, especially with this biohacker revolution. Although I've been looking at these things for years, that's me being a bit
The
arrogant.
thing with
there.
biohacking
But,
that's tricky because I
like-
love the concept of it. Is that like we're still all going to die, and I don't want to necessarily spend 20 or 30 years of my life trying to gain 3.
Yeah, but have you heard
I'd
of
like to
oil
not feel
pulling?
like shit now, though.
That would be
Haven't
good, yeah.
found the solution to that yet, but this might be it. Yeah, so
MDMA.
it works acutely,
Yeah.
and then doesn't work,
Oil
and then
pulling.
I'm just spending all day looking forward to the next time I do it. It's like most things, but anyway, yeah, copper, magnesium, zinc, all your B vitamins, they're things on blood work that no one's testing for, but have
Yeah.
quite a high magnitude of an impact
Yeah,
on
I think
your
some of
health.
those things they have to be spun or they have to be refrigerated.
Yeah.
Not that that's a problem. I mean, you saw the process for doing bloods earlier. Like, if you have to then spin one of those tubes for 2 minutes, well, it's not a problem. We just need to know the procedure.
Yeah,
and they're
you
not
could do
in a
that
rush to get
here,
back to us.
especially the amount of people that are looking at. And I don't recommend this, and there isn't scientific efficacy for it, but people are doing it, looking at gene profiles for methylation status and histamine status and things like that. They are things like people do when they look at their DAO and their histamine and their B vitamins and stuff on blood work. If you could do that in this undisclosed location that we're currently sat in.
Yeah,
That'd be
I mean, the methylation stuff, and the guy I saw today with the blood glucose monitor, he's hit 40. He's also done that, and then he fed all of the
I'm
data
sure he has.
into AI.
Into NutraHacker probably, and looked at all his gene snips.
I'm not sure.
That
But
stuff
he fed
will
it all into
scare
AI,
the
and then it
shit
fed
out
him
of
back a load of advice. And you know what?
Yeah.
A lot of it was good.
Yeah, the science isn't there to support that. Not to say that I haven't done it. I went on NutraHacker with my gene snips and had a look at all of them. And to be honest, it just terrified me. I'd rather have not gone on there.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Did it explain why you're sad?
Well, I was sat with Jazz, wasn't I? And there was one
Oh god.
there was
yeah.
one category, it said like addiction and anxiety.
It makes sense.
And it had like all the gene snips that could possibly contribute. There was 8 of them. And 7 of them I had like
Red.
the red
Yeah.
double risk.
I
Like,
did
well, I
mine.
already know that.
I did mine, and it was distinctly average. There was nothing about me that was special or interesting. Everything was just
Average.
Mine
Just
was just
average.
there was nothing good.
yeah,
It was all terrible.
yeah. No, I had nothing. I wasn't exceptional at anything. I think I had slightly positive genes for building muscle, and
That's all right.
and that was it.
I'll tell you an interesting fact about me. I had a brain
Are
scan.
you myostatin? What's the opposite of deficient?
Yeah, I've got too much of it. Yeah.
So many myostatins.
Yeah. No, I went for a brain scan years ago because I've got some nerve damage at the base of my skull, and it gives me like migraines. And they said, "Oh, you've got an abnormally large amount of grey matter."
He loves telling people that.
I bet he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wasn't
I remember you
Scott
telling us
Barrett,
that. Yeah, that was just
your brain
before.
size
Yeah,
dismissed in like 1920.
yeah.
What was that?
And the study, there was a name for the study of. They used to measure people's heads to
Oh,
determine
really?
intelligence, and it was dismissed in the. But Andrew Keeler loves it.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
still because
yeah,
his
yeah.
head's fucking massive.
Yeah.
He's like, that's why I'm so smart. I mean, logically
Yeah,
it makes
I
sense,
think
right?
my response was, "Oh, I'm shocked."
I'm desperate for them to clone a Neanderthal because they had like 20 or 30% bigger brain capacity than us. Double the density of muscle tissue. They're like 5 foot tall. I want to get one of them and train it up to be like an autistic powerlifter. It'd be incredible.
Did you know that Neanderthals used to bury their loved ones like this, like they were asleep?
Apparently, so in theory, I've read up on this one quite a bit. They could have potentially had more potential for intelligence than
That's
us.
what it seems.
And it seems that they went extinct because they lived in smaller groups than humans, and humans fought them, and they had a much higher energy requirement to exist and were less adapted to the cold. But I'd love to clone one of them motherfuckers now and just see what happens.
What would you need to clone it? You need enough DNA material.
You need enough DNA, yeah.
You've only got bone, haven't we?
Maybe you could piece it together from like all the little bits in people. I
Seeing a
don't know.
Neanderthal skull, it's like a rugby
That
ball.
Henry Wu from Jurassic Park, 100% he could do it.
AI
But I'd love
is
that.
awesome.
I'd love to see what that, what that could become.
Jazz, it sounds like you're going to need to pull us back
Yeah,
on course here. We're talking
This
about,
is all great.
talking about how
Do you know,
Neanderthals bury their loved ones.
I've had a question come through from a client. If you want me to
Go on
go
then.
Oh,
through that.
please.
Is there anything stronger than Deca?
What?
This
what do
is
you mean? It's like
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence. What do you mean?
exactly like for what? Like
Just reply with
I
meds.
can take
what,
this one.
Like compared to petrol, or I don't know. Like what are you using it for?
Milburn.
Yeah.
I could take this one. If I could talk about this for hours.
Don't.
So Deca, what they mean is nandrolone
Undecanate.
attached to it's normally a decanoate ester.
Oh, okay.
Can I
Yeah,
do
not
it?
But yes, that is a bugbear of mine because Deca is not a thing.
No.
Nandrolone is
The molecule is nandrolone. It's an anabolic androgenic steroid. It's very low androgenicity. So if by stronger they mean for strength outcomes or neural outcomes or something like that, yeah, there's loads of stuff. for its anabolism at the androgen receptor as compared to other molecules.
Wank.
Pretty much all, well, it's about the same as testosterone and primo and mastron, but it is more neurotoxic quite heavily. So depends what you want from it. If you want something to build muscle faster, no, you're not going to find anything for that.
I've been playing around with the minimal dosage of Deca to help with joints.
Yeah, like 50 milligram a week.
Without making me a sad boy.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that there is not one.
There isn't one, yeah. Nandrolone is terrible.
I was hoping you was going to have an answer then. I was like, oh, brilliant.
No,
I
I went as those 50 milligrams every 10 days, and it still made me just a little bit of a
I'm not
sad
sure
boy.
where I sit with that on the joint tendon ligament thing either, because the only data on that is a survey where they gave it in addition to TRT, and I feel like if you just took more
There's a
anabolics...
couple of studies on recovery modalities post-hip replacement.
Yeah, but again, is it just
Water retention.
milligrams of anabolics?
Drugs, yeah,
because there's no control. There's no other than men
I
not
did
using.
feel better, but then that's literally how. What's the word for a thing that's not a thing that you think?
A placebo.
Yeah, that's literally how placebos
Yeah,
work. Right, you have to do the thing for the placebo to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if these men just took testosterone,
Whether they'd
would it have the same impact on collagen, etc.?
doesn't make me sad, makes me flat.
Yeah. I've got some theories about the neurological impacts of androgens, because that's something that's so early doors on the data, and the data that we got doesn't look good. In fact, it
We'll
looks
have
terrible.
loads of data in 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, and I can almost guarantee it'll be terrible. I think there's some form of GABA downregulation or desensitization. I think there's an impact and/or with shifting up glutamate and stimulatory neurotransmitters, maybe other catecholamines, and I think maybe a desensitization at dopamine receptors, because the pathologies of the androgen-mediated neurotoxicity matches those kind of brain states, and the kind of early cell line studies that we've seem to suggest that. So if I was going to recommend supplements for attenuating that impact, I'd probably be looking at things that enhance GABA function, maybe like imoxapine or apigenin or Relora.
If only we knew somewhere to get good apigenin.
Apigenin is probably the most well-researched one in terms of enhancing GABA function, because it's not like a GABA agonist or a positive allosteric modulator of GABA. It's also an antioxidant. Do you want to know an interesting fact, Jake? Apigenin is one of the alkaloids in kratom.
You know, Jake didn't answer, just for the record.
I seen that the other day when I was looking at a list of all the alkaloids, as you do on a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
I don't know what kratom is.
No, he's never heard of kratom.
Right, last question.
Okay. Because we're going to have to show you our secret location in a minute.
Yep. Where do you plan? How far ahead do you plan or goal set with Strom? Not
at all. Not at all.
I was going to ask you.
This is 10 years of just winging it.
There
He's
you
like, I
go.
quite like this product. I'll make it.
Rick's coined it in just selfishly making supplements for himself.
There you
And then
go.
that's absolutely right.
And then
so
we-
we've
and then
done a load
actually-
of stuff around inflammation because I injured my pec.
Yeah.
We did a load of stuff around heart health because I thought I'd had a stroke. Turns out I hadn't, but I was kind of on a roll then. I got my TISM stuck on heart health for a year, which is why we ended up with Thrombomax and Kyolic Garlic.
But now you're helping other people with heart
I've
problems.
got a question for you.
Yes.
Is there any supplement of the Strom range that you don't take on a daily basis?
There's a few, actually. I am terrible for...
Because I think everyone will think, yeah, you just use everything.
Yeah, I don't use
No,
the
that's
artichoke.
me.
Why?
I guess laziness. I don't use Lipid Max, and I
Why?
really should because my lipids are crap, but I hate the taste.
I had this chat with Emma Thackeray because I was drinking a shaker just full of Lipid Max
Yeah.
because I like the taste.
And Lipid Max does a really good job.
Yeah.
I use Cystomax every day. I use Cystomax every day, NAC every day, Kyolic Garlic every day. I use the creatine HCl because I have a sensitive stomach as I'm getting older. I use Neuro every day. I use
What, PM?
Support Max Joint every day. No, regular Neuro. Because I take it with Z-Max.
So you don't use KSM 66 every day?
Yes, I do in regular Neuro.
Oh, do you?
Regular Neuro's got KSM 66.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And Support Max Joint, and I use a half dose of OG Support Max and Multimax. So that's kind of my full stack. When I was doing more of the drugs, I was a bit more on it with things. And I go through phases. I don't know if you're the same, but you get to the point where I just can't be fucking arsed to wake
I don't
up
get
and
to
take
that
20
point.
tablets.
I can't get enough controlling
Just can't
things
get
that I do. Yeah. Well, I don't take I don't take KSM 66 very regularly.
Yeah. Have you tried going really high on that?
No, I don't want to.
Comfortably numb.
I don't have good. It worsens my sleep every single time I take
That's
it.
interesting.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm not the only one. You have that effect, don't you?
It stimulates me and I can't get to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we originally did neuro, it was weird because I just did that as a post-workout.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of it. And everyone's like, I'm sleeping amazing. I was like, okay, great. Let's do an advert for that. But there's probably about 20% of people who still have it in the morning with a coffee as a like productivity neuroplasticity tool.
Yeah. I feel like KSM 66 makes me feel weird. Anything like really GABAergic makes me feel odd. And NAC, I don't take either.
Okay.
Yeah, I use the glutathione.
Yep. See, again, if I actually get ill, I jump on the glutathione. I think NAC is great for maintaining physiological levels of glutathione.
Yeah.
And glutathione max is great for maintaining supraphysiological
Yeah, so
levels.
I take that every day. I don't take the NAC because more so, I'm paranoid about the glutamatergic effects of it.
Yes, you've mentioned this before.
Disrupting dopamine, things like that, which is
But
probably
it
not a
does
problem for
reduce
normal people.
mucus in the lungs, which might improve my aerobic capacity ever so slightly. And that's the thing that is the worst.
Yeah, you know, have you seen any studies on giving like NAC in conjunction with dopamine agonists, like Adderall and things like that? Well, it ablates the majority of the effect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's what it does to glutamate.
Here's a question for you, because someone said it to me the other day, and I was like, that's not how fucking meth works.
Meth.
So they've been prescribed ADHD medication.
Which one? Dexedrine
No,
or dexamphetamine?
dexamphetamine.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't take vitamin C with it because it will stop it working.
That's true.
Will it stop it working, or will it slightly reduce the effects?
It will massively reduce the effect.
Really?
Take it. I don't know if I should say something. Take it from someone that has used amphetamines.
Okay.
With
No,
and without
because
vitamin
I
C.
laid into them. I was like, I've never known someone
it's
go,
a
I've
legit
taken
thing.
too much meth. I'll just have some vitamin C and I'll have an orange and it'll be fine.
No, the easy way around it for people that are prescribed any dopamine agonist is just to take all their vitamin C at night, which they should do because the oxidative stress from those drugs is really high. So, and most people are taking
Well, that's
that.
actually really useful advice then.
Yeah.
There you go.
And that makes sense, I guess, if it then tapers off. And
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to relay that to them, and I'm not going to apologise, but I'm going to walk around the fact that they
Yes.
were kind of right.
I mean, it's not going to
Yeah.
make it not work.
Yeah.
But there is a great
drop-off.
attenuation of impact.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we've got an hour until we need to be at the gym.
Okay. So let's get filming.
So we need to, other people are supposed to be arriving now soon anyway. So hopefully something there was useful.
All of Rick and Strom, Rick from Strom's
All
details.
of Rick?
Yes, all of Rick.
All of them
All of his details
are
gonna be
available on his OnlyFans.
Yeah. So you can find in the description. Thanks, guys.
Peace out. Thanks for watching.